Okay, I have 15 minutes here. I'm going to repeat a lot of shit during the series about being tortured for 155 days in one-man cell, number 3, Brazos County, Texas, based upon the perjuries and of Carla Santero, now dead, deceased from suicide, and Mayor Lonnie Stabler and Hilda Ferris, who at the last minute, Hilda Ferris withdrew her testimony and etc. and refused to testify against me because she knew, please, I have friends, okay? Hilda's husband was running for judge, and a Jewish friend of mine was handling Hilda's husband's campaign, media campaign, okay? No interference here. It's just, she just heard it through the grapevine. What I want to talk about is, and this, let's say this is going to be, because I just did a check, this is probably going to be episode 6 or 7 or 8. I don't care. I just want you to see my beautiful blue eyes and what used to be a beautiful face and on a handsome body, and the fact that nobody's ever broken my nose, but it's kind of splintered at the end, become bulbous. My face is covered with wrinkles because I can't stand grease on me, because when you play ball and stuff like that, you have to grease yourself. You have to grease your forehead. You have to grease your ears to get your helmet on and stuff like that. And you have to grease your armpits, your nipples, etc. for the shoulder pads, and you have to grease your crotch for the obvious, the jock strap, and that's what's led to a couple of just permanent blackheads there. Now I'm forgetting what I want to talk about on this one. Is really the first thing I want to talk about is my final actions, which probably will appear on another episode here, because I've got like 2 or 3 hours of recordings here that I will upload under 155 Days of Torture, One Man Cell, number 3. You know, you can get pretty sneaky. Yeah, that tells me what I want to do on the next episode. You can get pretty sneaky when you're in a one-man cell, because nobody's really watching you. There may be some little 8x8 steel door that's open with bars, etc., where they can look in, but nobody's near you. You're in there all alone, endlessly. And you know what? I'll repeat it again later. Actually, after my suicide attempt of December 17th, 1996, one of the few things that kept me alive, it was a really hard freeze that winter. Bad ice storms and stuff like that. And the grackles, yeah, they sound like grackles, not crows, were landing on the roof, were one of the reasons I was denied the federally mandated recreation was because a guy from the roof had ripped off, when they were up there allowed to, it ripped off the, this is hilarious. He had figured out which was the TV cable, which he knew was super strong, ripped it off, and swung like Spider-Man down the street, ran into the first white and then the black section of town around 23rd, 22nd Street, hit the clothesline, grabbed some civilian clothes, and was gone for quite a while before they got him. But this is all about, and my memory tells me I've already said it in another section, but I'm going to repeat it again because these episodes are I can tell I'm picking up some momentum here, are being viewed by, and please forgive me, there's a red spot here in my chest, and recently on my penis, which I'm about to cut off with a pair of toenail clippers, which my doctor's already approved because he knows I can judge histology, tissue. It's benign, it's not. I'm a very well-educated person, despite what you may think, you retards, you fucking YouTube retards. So, as I stated earlier and stuff like that, when I came into the jail and stuff like that, they took my briefcase, they put my medication in with the nurses, who were a bunch of evil witches, under the direction of one Hindu named Ronnie Buttfuck, Dr. Buttfuck, whatever. Ronnie means queen. And I'll get into that other stuff later. I want to focus on this marvelous moment. Is even before, because they always try, especially when you're like accused of fucking with a cop or something, they absolutely try to keep you out of the commissary for 2 weeks so you don't have any pen or writing paper or tamper-proof Tyvek envelopes. But as I said in a previous episode, yeah, time for a swig. You know, the great thing about being Jewish is that we're the only religion that is required to drink wine on special occasions. Holidays, seeing an old friend, marriages, or something like this where I'm recording my life and transmitting it to the world. So, right off the bat, in my stack of papers, which are kept under my steel bunk, which is like 5'8", I'm lying down 7 foot long. I told you before, was a juvenile cell built back in the late 40s in the old section of the courthouse and jail. And what had been like 10 cells were reduced to 4. I was in one man cell number 3. And you know what the funny thing is? Right after that, a band came out. Besides the album that's dedicated to me, Kent by Big Ass Truck, there's also was another group that called themselves One Man OMC 3, all playing around Austin, Texas. Although the albums were later, had added production value, etc. Or anyway, I'll get to that later. I've only got about 6 minutes left. So I managed to get the kid that had been convicted on the methamphetamine charge, manufacturer of 50 years. He was in bringing me breakfast one morning, and I got him to pass me a pen from one Rogelio Esteban Garcia, also known as Steve Garcia, who was co-writer of the famous What versus Estelle that ended prison overcrowding in Texas. He could speak English very well. He sometimes didn't understand it. He would pronounce conscience as conscience, but he was real good at conning people. But I got this trustee to pass a pen from Steve, Rogelio. You know, those of us who are multilingual deal in many names. I got this trustee to pass a pen from him to me. I began to pull out blank sheets of paper and began writing writs. And he was actually one of the co-founders of the Texas Writ Writers Association, which I'm still a member in good standing, etc. And I told you, I think in the first episode, that this Jew boy who had changed his name from Herbert Mankiewicz to Herb Mankey fuck with every one of those writs. He was a totally crooked lawyer trying to force me into a plea bargain and admit guilt where there was no guilt. I had not retaliated against anybody. I had made no threats to anybody. But my point is that after a couple of weeks, as I mentioned before, I gave my mother access to I couldn't give it to my trust, but to my oil and gas income. I sent it to my mother and allowed it to build up in hopes that someday I might meet the outrageous, unconstitutional bond set on me by, I'll talk about that in an entire different episode, about former ex-judge Carolyn Rufino. But I was already working 4 writs and stuff like that, and I was trying to tell Judge Rufino I was being tortured, and it just couldn't. But the thing is that I always had plenty of money in my commissary, which that's when they would leave me alone, was when I was eating. I'd sit upright so they couldn't get within range of me. When the bulldyke, the cross-wearing bulldyke, Sergeant Kendall, would rule the day, they really couldn't do me much damage. But every week, besides a new toothbrush, new toothpaste, a couple of legal pads, a couple dozen Tyvek tamper-proof, legal envelopes to communicate and stuff like that. I always ordered at least a couple of pens, and I would save them back. I know I've talked about this in a previous episode. I just want to stress it here under better lighting, is that I'm at 13 minutes. I have less than 2 minutes. And they shook down my cell several times, and they never found that shit. Those fucking loser fucking, D minus high school graduates that become fucking jailers, in local county jails. But I would write. I've always been kind of hypergraphic, but I would write day and night, and look through my butt. About halfway through or 3/4 through of every pen, I would take out the tube of ink and hide it in a special place, so that after I told the trustee to tell everybody, actually just before I told him that I had the exculpatory evidence and that I was going to kick their ass, the night before, I pulled out about 40 or 50 partial tubes of ink and blew them onto a piece of paper. And in the Jesus room, which is where they put me on one-man cell number 3, I wiped out all trace of Jesus, the cross, and above my head, I wrote in giant numbers 666. It really fucked them up, man. It was so fucking cool. I wasn't making a bond with Satan. I was putting the mark of Satan on those no good fucking losing cocksucking bastards and lesbians.